Salutare tuturor, sunt Andrei Radu, bun venit la ePlan. Invitatul meu de astăzi este președintele An Marketing, autorul a numai puțin de 7 cărți bestseller, keynote speaker internațional și co-host al unui podcast cu peste 1 milion de descărcări și milioane de vizualizări. Îi spun bun venit în premieră în România lui Scott Stratten. Welcome, Scott, for the first time in Romania, right?
First time, yes.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
You have, all your books are like on marketing, on selling, on branding, and the last one on leadership. What's about with this "un" thing? Why "un"?
What is it? Why do "un"? Other than it sounds really good and it looks good.
Yeah.
If you're going to talk about marketing and things, you have to market yourself as well.
Of course.
So branding is one thing for that. But the "un" really means that everything we're not thinking about all the time. That I believe that branding is not a logo. Okay. Branding is not colors to me. Unbranding is, what do you think when you see the logo of the company? We think of stories. I think of stories. Psychologists say when we see a logo, we think two things. The most recent experience we had with that brand or company, and the most extreme experience we've had or heard about that brand or company.
Even if it's positive or negative?
Doesn't matter. Because the branding is in the eye of the consumer, not the company. The company can think they're branding, and they do. They create logos, websites, colors, brochures. But the customer says, no, I think you're good or bad, not the company. Every company thinks they're good.
Yeah,
every company thinks they're great. They all think they're great. It says that it was about, I think, 85% of companies think they give special customer service. Yep. And 10% of people think they receive except. That's a huge gap. Yeah, there's a huge gap there. And so the "un" part is really the relationship side of things. The do you walk your talk? If you say you value your customers, tell me how. If you say you value your vendors, tell me how, right? And if you value your employees, let me see.
Of course.
Let me ask your employees first. They're the ones that are going to tell me as well. It's the same for marketing, branding, leadership, and sales. Sales, for me, unselling is not about selling you today. Unselling, when you build trust and a relationship, is about selling you today, tomorrow, and for as long as it works for you as a customer. And I think people believe in that because that's about caring about people and your reputation.
What's next in the series of "un" things? Unspeaking.
Unsleeping. Right now, I think at this point, we were going to say we're going to do on networking, but it's really hard to write a book about just being kind to each other. It would be one page, you know. It would be that I help you if you help me, and we're all a community together. That's not a 20-chapter book.
Or it can be the Bible.
It could be. That's right. It could be exactly that. So I think for us that I'm really lucky and fortunate that Allison, who is the co-owner of the business, and luckily for me, my wife, is the writer of the two of us. She can do talks, but is incredible and loves writing. I can write, but I love doing talks at conferences.
That's
so and we met on Twitter. I have the best ROI, return on investment in social media in history. But part of that is that we talk and we write about things we're passionate about. So who knows what comes in a year or two now, but after 7 books, it's that's a lot of words put into places that say things, yeah, for sure.
Your talk at GPEC Summit is about unmarketing. Everything has changed and nothing is different.
Yeah.
How come?
Well, we get so caught up in marketing on what's new, right? And things move so fast today that it's really hard to keep up. So instead of always jumping at the newest thing that's come out today, that we have to focus on what we're doing every day. Because focus and strategy somehow has become a lost art form, I think, in marketing. That we used to plan out a year in advance, right? We do Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and a 5-year branding marketing plan. I don't know if you can do a 5-day plan, right? Things move so fast because of disruption. And disruption is simply a change without time to resist it. And people hate change anyways. If you changed your morning routine, if you changed your morning coffee or tea or whatever you did, your day is ruined. And when things change, when technology changed so fast, we tend to jump to new platforms, new social media, new digital landscapes, instead of saying, this is how I put it. If I can't look at your website on my phone, don't try to figure out what's going on TikTok right now. Fix your website first. Like, fix your home base and the things we've been doing wrong for so long before going forward, because it hasn't changed. We want to find a need and fill it.
Yes.
That's what business is. But we get so caught up. I love technology. I love social media. That's that's how I got known. But what I really love is focus on the right tools and the right things for the right people.
You have a very nice story that you tell in your speeches regarding the customer service and regarding Joshi and the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Can you share this story and maybe the key findings from this story?
Of course. So Joshi and the Ritz-Carlton is one of my main stories I get to tell on stage. And it's a story of a child who left his stuffed giraffe at the Ritz-Carlton, Amelia Island in Florida in the United States. And they flew home and realized they had lost his favorite thing. And if with anybody have kids, you understand whether it's a stuffed animal or a blanket or whatever it is, if they lose it, the world is ended. Everything is done. And so the father called the hotel hoping they could find him, and they did. But before they mailed back Joshi to the upset child, they went around the resort and took photos of Joshi enjoying his extended vacation from the family at the spa, by the pool. They even had him working in loss prevention because he had to pay for his extended stay, because the Ritz-Carlton is not cheap hotel. They mailed him home to the child with Joshi, with a photo album, and with a letter from the general manager thanking the child for allowing Joshi to stay for longer. Now, before you hear that story, you sometimes think of Ritz-Carlton, fancy, nice, expensive, right? That's the brand. But when you see that story, it also says they care. They care about the customers. We don't decide what stories get told about us. When that goes viral, because that's how I saw it, it's not even my story. It didn't happen to me. I tell it at almost every talk I give around the world, right? And that costs the Ritz-Carlton nothing, right? Because it's emotion, and we love that type of stuff. I went there a few years later to speak at a conference, and I went to check in, and they said, "You're the guy who keeps telling our story." They knew who I was.
Nice.
They impressed, and it just keeps going. And it's a lot of money to stay there, but it can be worth it when you realize they're different. They actually care about you being there, and that's why I love telling this story.
Yes, it's a very nice story. You mentioned earlier that we have a lot of a lot of tools. We have a lot of social media channels.
Yeah.
There is there is so much noise regarding marketing, and how can a brand stay and remain in his target audience's mind?
It's really focus again, because if you have one person that's in charge of doing your marketing digitally, or even 3 people doing your marketing digitally, they only have so much time. It doesn't matter if it's in Romania, in Canada, where I am, in Australia, everybody has 24 hours. Nobody has a different amount of time. So when we focus it down to the individual people, what do you want them looking at and doing? So first of all, it's about trusting your team to know where you should be. Yes, you could be on X, and you can be Facebook, you could be TikTok, you can be Instagram, you could be so many, MySpace. You could still be on MySpace, by the way. It's understanding that where our focus goes. I rather spend 50% of my time on each 2 places, so half on each place, than 20% on 5. Because if I want to be somewhere, if I want to have a presence on a platform, I need to be present. I need to be there and interacting with my customers. If I offered you this digital tools we have today, if I offered them 20 years ago to a brand, they'd pay me 100,000, millions to do this. But now it's like, well, we don't know. Focus, listen to your team who knows it. There's nothing better than somebody in digital marketing who lives on the platforms. Do you know how I got to know Twitter so well? I lived there. From waking up until going to sleep at night, I understand the platform.
But why?
Because I believe in community. In community, you have to show up. You have to show up to a community to be part of a community.
Just saying, I don't know, good morning or good night.
But it's that conversations are always out there. So what I did when I joined Twitter and when I got big on the platform, I was the #1 person in Canada in 2011 on Twitter until Justin Bieber showed up and just screwed it up for everybody. But back then, I would tweet 7,000 times in 1 month.
Wow.
But 85% of those were replying to people. Everybody's putting things out there. Right now, you can go to LinkedIn right now and somebody is asking a question, somebody is telling a story that means something to them, and you just reply to them. Start having those conversations with them. That's what a relationship is. And when you have a bunch of those relationships all connected, that's what a community is. But you have to put the time in. Don't send AI to do conversations for you. Relationships aren't a campaign. Relationships are about you and I. Relationships aren't about brands. They're about the individuals who work at or with those brands. That never changes if you leave the brand.
Yeah.
If you worked for Coca-Cola and you left and started working in a different industry, you still have all the relationships you've built. And that's what it is to me. That's what everything in life is to Allison and I. It's long-term connections and relationships. Because we always want to connect with those people. We always want to build a relationship and say, I like you. I like your skills and I like how you care. Let's do better things together. And then we create things together. And that's why I'm sitting here right now.
Yep. And my last question, because the time is running out. Let's talk about a bit about your last book on leadership.
Yes.
What are the most 3 important things, 3 takeaways from this book?
That's good. So one is, one of the common threads throughout everybody, the book is 53 different people that Allison interviewed about leadership. Each one's about the same length, the same size. And one of the common things is caring, one thing about your people, that understanding leadership is the way you're positioned. So instead of looking at your people and telling them to do, you're looking forward with them. You're going in the same direction. Number 2 is curiosity. Are you curious about your people? Do you care? Right? Versus sometimes leaders says, listen to me.
Yeah.
Leaders to us is like, tell me more. The curiosity, whether it's your staff, whether it's the industry, whatever it is, this bonds people together. And the biggest thing, the third part is also, you don't know when leadership moments are happening. Right? So I remember the people that affected me in my life, as would you, the bosses you had, teachers, anything like that affected your life. But people don't realize every moment is like that all the time. We're always affecting each other. So when leaders realize that it's not about just that moment, but it's about our future together, you can look at things differently and realize that we can elevate each other in business. We can take an elevator up together in success instead of a ladder that just steps on each other. Because leaders are like, well, if you're here, I can't be in that top position as well. And it's not what this world is about for us. It's about, regardless of who you are, where you are, or your industry, you can care about people and you can care about the company. And we're all about business still. We care about business and surviving and making revenue and making money, but you can do that the right way. You can do that with still caring about your staff and your people.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Scott. Can't wait to see you on stage at GPEC Summit for the first time in Romania tomorrow. Thank you very much. Vă mulțumesc tare mult și vouă că ne-ați urmărit. Sunt Andrei Radu. La revedere!